All right, tonight we're going to continue in Job chapter 17, and it's about Job's plea. He's still pleading to God. So Job pleads his case. He, of course, starts out, and of course, he makes some remarks towards those friends. Now, we've been using books, and we've just kind of abandoned that, so I hope that's all right. If not, we can go back and try to answer questions that is there. But Job now, in this chapter, is returning to his appeal to God. And you know, it may seem to be redundant, but it's not really, because every chapter, really, it portrays Job in a different light that is comparable to Christ. Now, by no means is Job like Christ, but what we're talking about is a type of Christ. Job is a type of Christ in that, number one, he suffered innocently. Number two, he's been accused of wrongdoing, and he hasn't done anything wrong. In this chapter, we're going to see that people spit on him. Well, they spat on our Lord. They spit on him. They plucked his beard. And so there are things like that throughout these chapters that we're getting. And I don't know that I've really brought those things out. But, you know, we talk about how that the book of Job teaches us how that we should suffer and the reason why people suffer. It's not always because of sin. It's not always because of something that you have done. And so here's Job, who is an innocent man, who is at the mercy of Satan. He has thrown everything that he could at him to cause Job to deny his faith and to curse God. Even his wife, that is Job's wife, says, "Do you still maintain your integrity? Curse God and bid him goodbye." And the Bible says, you know, Job says that you speak like a foolish woman. He said, "Naked came I into this world, and naked shall I leave." And so Job maintains his integrity. Now, there are many places where you think that Job is challenging God. He really isn't. He questions, and sometimes because of the translation, because of, you know, going from the Hebrew language into the Greek and then into the English, you sometimes you can lose the meaning, especially when it relates to culture and things that were related at this time. And also, this book is one of the oldest. It is the oldest book in the Bible because of the way it's written and the language that is used. And also, we know it's the oldest because of the way they measured wealth in the book of Job. So Job is a man of integrity, and he is questioning God why are these things happening to me, and he wants to make his appeal to God, but God is not answering him. Now, this has been going on for months, and we don't know how long Job went through this. Possibly a year. It could have been a year. It could have been several months. But it's to the point where Job has lost a lot of weight. He has his skin has deteriorated. He has the smell of death. He sits in the pile of ashes, which is a symbolic of mourning and grief and begging to speak to God, and God's not answering him. And this is all part of the test. I mean, if Job could have withstood Satan for a day or for a week, maybe most people could do that. But we're talking about months. And we've already know that, at the beginning of chapter 1 and chapter 2, that Job was a man of integrity. He turned away from evil. He was upright. He feared God. And, Satan comes to God and says, does a man serve God for naught or for no reason? And what Satan was saying is, well, you've given him these riches. That's why he's serving you. God said to take away his riches. So God does, or Satan does. Satan takes away his riches. And even takes away his children. And then the next round, Satan says, well, if you touch his flesh, he will curse you. And so God says, he's in your hands, but do not take his life. Now, how low can a person go in life? How low can a person go before they die? How low can they go? Well, you can go to the hospital and see a lot of sick people. And let me tell you something. Job was in a position to where he was brought within inches of death and just held there for months. And so here's Job, who is a man, and what we see in this, we already know the end of the story, that Job endured the entire test. The entire test. And what does it do? It proves Satan wrong. That's what it does. And here's Job, and suffering is not easy. And God does not give him the answer. God does not tell him, Job, this is a test, just hang in there. He doesn't say that. Job says, why is this happening to me? Why are these things? And God doesn't answer him. And that's part of the test. And so here's Job, who is pleading. He is in misery. And let me tell you something. Pain is, I'm sure that most of you have been in a lot of pain, but can you imagine this continuously for months and months and months? And then you got the mental anguish on top of that. Then you lost your children. Then you lost your servants. And then you don't have the support of anybody. Nobody's standing with you. And this is what Job was going through it. All right, so in chapter 17 in verse 1, and I know we covered some of these verses, but we're going to go back. He says, my spirit is broken, my days are extinguished. So what is he saying? I'm at the end of my life. My spirit, some passages, I don't know if it's King James or others says, my wind is broken or my life is broken. He's talking about he's talking about being at the very end of his life. And I've been around people. I've been doing this for a long time. And I've been to hospitals and I've been around people who were lying on their death. I have seen people that knew that they were not going to make it through the night. They were absolutely not, and they didn't. And Job is saying here, I'm at the end of my life. My spirit, my life is gone from me. My days are extinguished. I got him to die. Satan can't kill him. And really doesn't want to kill him. Because Satan's trying to get him to curse God. So here is Job, who is saying, I'm at the end of my life. I don't know what else to do. He says, the grave is ready for me. He thought he was going to die. And he had to be at a very low state. Now, I know we may have been in a place in our life, been sick or whatever, to think that we may not make it through the night or make it. But I know that there was no question in the mind of Job. I know there was absolutely no question that he believed that he would have died. And if it was any other circumstances, if Satan was not involved, I think he perhaps would have died. I've seen people who I thought were not going to make it through the night, and they Constitution, and they made it through the night, and they got better. I've seen people do that. So I don't have any answers. But I do know that the lowest life. He says, are not mockers with me? Even when Job was very ill, when he has lost everything, no one is at his side. No one is standing there. He says, with me, why is it that when people get down and out, that people run by and kick them? You know, just add on to the misery. And Job is saying that there were mockers with him, and he says, and does not my eye dwell on their provocation? What does he mean? Job was looking at them, and they were kicking him when he was down. It wasn't they were doing it behind his back. Here's a man, the richest man of all the East, greatest man, and highly exalted, highly thought of. And now he doesn't have anything, and he's sick, and he can't defend himself. He's lost a lot of weight. He is in misery, and people are walking by and just kicking at him. And that seems to be what some people do. I don't know that everybody does that. He says, now put down a pledge for me with yourself. Who is he who will shake hands with me? Now, that word yourself, is it what's so special about that word? It's capitalized, is what I'm trying to get at. So who's he talking to? He is shifting from the fact that Job is speaking that here that he's at the end of his life. People are kicking at him, kicking him when he's down. My days are extinguished. The grave is ready. Mockers are with me. And now he is talking to God. He says, now put down a pledge for me with yourself. Now, what does he mean? Who is it that knew the integrity of Job? That knew the character? It is God. It is God. It is God. Because God has told Satan, have you not tried my servant Job? He is the greatest of all the East. He upholds who turns away from evil. And we say this all the time. But he is talking to God, who knows us more than anyone. It's God. It is God. When we look at some passages to give us comfort, because Job is asking God to be a pledge. In other words, God, vouch for me. You know, I'm in this condition. You know me better than everybody else. So what is 1 Peter chapter 5, verse, is it 6 and 7? Or, yeah, 6 and 7. What does it say? It don't say nothing. You gotta read it. Who's got that? Anybody got that? Maybe it's 5 and 6. Chapter 5. Well, actually, it's 6 and 7. All right, so, that passage tells us that, God resists the proud, and a few verses before that. How did Job approach his sickness? He was a man of, although Job is asking questions, Job was not prideful. Job did not say, well, I was a perfect man. I walked, I did this, and I did that. I did all these good things. Job didn't do that. But what Job did was that he humbled himself. Even in his sickness, he was humble. And then Peter says, cast your care upon him, for he careth for you. Let me tell you something, and y'all know this as well as I do. I don't have to tell you this. That in our time of sickness, of sorrow, of grief, we communicate with God. We open up our hearts in prayer to God, and he hears us. 1 John chapter 5, verse 14. I think it's 5:14, where he says, if you ask anything according to his will, he hears you. He hears us. Now, we may not think that God answers our prayers. We may think God is ignoring us, or where are we in life? But rest assured, God hears your prayers. God had heard Job, because when we get to chapter 38 or 36, God begins to question Job. He's heard everything Job has to say. He's heard everything that Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar had to say. He heard all of that. God hears everything that we say, and he knows everything that we think. And Peter tells us to cast your care upon him, for he careth for you. Now that's very significant, because I think you understand this, that when the book of First Peter is about suffering. It's about suffering. It's about persecution. It's about suffering. It's about going through difficult times in your life. And what Peter is saying is that we cast our, and he hears us. He cares for us. And that ought to be comforting to us. Sometimes we may not understand that or make that about that. But I think Job is this great book that tells us, that shows us that Job trusted in God. He was frustrated to the point that God didn't talk to him. And of course, that was part of the test. I know that that's the case. But he said, who knows me? Who knows me better? It is God. He says, who is he who will shake hands with me? So who is it that is a friend to Job? Who is it that is that communicated with? We don't have before this, these events happened. But he was a patriarch. He offered sacrifice for his children, and the Bible tells us that because he says on their day, that is on their birthday party, they might have done something. So he offered. And the indication through this book is that Job and God had communicated before with Job nothing. And it's he who will shake me, is with me, with me, with me, with me, with me, with me. For you have hidden their hearts from understanding. Now he's talking. Friends have no understanding of what is happening. Now, Job didn't fully understand. Job knew that what his life did not merit all of the things that was happening to him, because everybody in this day and time that a person who was a sinner would reap the wrath of God. And everybody that was a righteous man would reap the blessings of life, the wealth of life. And yet here, these men did not understand what was happening to Job, and that people do suffer for no reason at all. That people do go through bad things. And that's, when you read any commentary on Job, or when you read anyone on Job, it's always, why do good people suffer bad things? That seems to be one of the lessons that come out. And it's not because of sin. That person may suffer, and it has nothing to do with sin. It may be nature. It may be things that happen, but not everybody brings sin on their life. Now, a person gets out there and he drinks 2 quarts of whiskey every day from the time he's 12 years old. He ain't going to live very long. He's going to get cirrhosis of the liver. He's probably going to get cancer. He's probably going to suffer a lot of things. There's a lot of things that we can do to prevent early death. It doesn't mean something else ain't going to happen, but what it does mean is that there are things that we do that will shorten our life. And Job is saying here that here's my friends, and the truth or suffer has been no understanding. It's just really an assumption, and that's what happens in the assumption. You will not exalt them. He's saying, please don't give them any power. They have condemned me. They have accused me falsely. They have said that I was a sinner, that I brought all of these things on me. And he says, don't exalt them to a place where they have some power or authority or judgment. And he says, therefore you will not exalt them. He who speaks flattery to his friends, even the eyes of his children will fail. In other words, here is an individual who speaks without knowledge. And that's the whole thing. They speak without knowledge. And they try to tell Job why he's suffering, why he's going through this. And Job, all you got to do is repent. All you got to do is turn to the Lord, and he will lift all of this up. And if your children died because of your wickedness, and you've lost all of your cattle because of your wickedness, and all this kind of stuff. So Job is saying, please don't give any of these people any power or authority. Even their children will follow after them and make the same mistakes. In verse number 6, any comment, any question? But he has made a byword of the people, and I have become one whose face men spit. So you think people were spitting at Job, spitting on Job? Job the only one anybody's ever? No. In the three gospel accounts, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, mentions that Jesus in his trial before the Roman soldiers, before the Sanhedrin, in at least 2 times in each of those books, that people spat on him. I say a sign of what do I want to say? It was a sign of how that they detest him and how low things were going. And Job was an individual who, he was a man of great integrity, and now he doesn't have anything, and now he doesn't have any power. What do people do? They mock him and say, well, you deserve it. You did something wrong. You're a sinner and all this. And so people have even spit on him. And this is another likeness of Christ. In other words, this is another symbol of type of Christ, that here Job was innocent and everything, and here's Christ. He's put on trial. He's brought before the people. What do? They spit on him. And even the Psalms say they plucked his beard. Isaiah says, is it Isaiah chapter 50? Probably verse 12, maybe somewhere around there. They plucked his beard out. And can you imagine the pain and the suffering that even our Lord went through, the humiliation? And he says, my eyes has also grown dim because of sorrow. All my like shadows. Face is sunken in. His arms are lost tremendous amount of weight. Muscle mass, his arms all over. And he says, all my members are like shadows. In other words, he's lost all of this weight and there's nothing there. He doesn't have the strength to really stand. He doesn't have the strength to defend himself. He says, my eyes have grown dim with sorrow. What's he been doing? Crying. He is in misery. He is in severe pain. No one's with him. And Jesus is called a man of sorrows. Did Jesus ever cry? In the book of Hebrews, chapter 10, verse 5, 6, somewhere around there, I think, that with bitter tears, Jesus cried with bitter tears in the Garden of Gethsemane. And when you read the original text, and I know you're not, but the original text, when the Bible says that Jesus cried out, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? That wasn't in a monotone voice. That was a scream. That was in agony and in pain. And so when Jesus faced these things, what we're seeing here is what Job is facing as an innocent man, but yet he's pointing down the road about 2,100 years and pointing at Christ. And he says, all my members are like shadows. Upright men are astonished at this, and the innocent stirs himself up against the hypocrite. Yet the righteous will hold his way. All right, so let's stop right there. When he says that the upright men are astonished, what does he say? He said if righteous men would pass by and see him, they would be astonished. They would say, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to Job? That's what the meaning is. And the innocent stirs himself up, hypocrite. In other words, if a righteous man, a man of integrity, was in the same condition, what would they do in defense to Bildad, Eliphaz, and Zophar? They would do the same thing Job was doing. They would defend themselves. They would be astonished at the things that are happening and the way that Job is being treated. Job hasn't changed. Job, when we think about this, Job's integrity had not changed. His financial system changed. His kids were murdered by Satan, so to speak. He lost everything. He lost his friends. But Job maintained his integrity. When at the end of chapter 3, it says, in all this, Job sinned not, nor did he charge God foolishly. And I think that's a very powerful lesson for us, that through our faith and through our service to God, that no matter what comes our way, we still maintain our integrity towards God. We still do that. I've seen Christians that have been suffering and they're lying on death's bed and they're still praising God. They're still thanking God for the blessings. And on the other hand, you see people who are out in the world and they're blaming God for their suffering or cursing because of the things that are happening to them. And so I think it's a very powerful lesson for us that Job would say, whatever happens to us in life, that we maintain our integrity. We maintain our Christian values. He says, yet the righteous will hold his way, and he who has clean hands will be stronger and stronger. Now what's he? He is saying the righteous man will come out of this. It will come forth. The righteous man, the man of integrity, will come out of the trouble and the trials of life. And we know the downs in life, up and downs in life. You may have money one year and no money the next year. You may have your health one year and no health the next year and better health the next year. The thing is, Job is saying that a righteous man will be able to this for all of this. Now he's saying he's at the end of his life. He's already said that, but I think this is a ray of hope to show us that our faith comes from within, that it is through our integrity, it is through our faithfulness, it is through our service to God. The true believer, the true worshiper will make it through. And he's talking about how difficult life is. And but please come back again, all of you, for I find one wise among you. So he is the righteous man that comes out of this, that will endure this. And then he turns to his friends again. He tells them there's not a wise individual among you. 3 friends. He's already accused them of being physicians that were worthless physicians. He said, he is saying this, I shall wise man among you. Here, these guys were just prejudiced and speaking out of ignorance is what they were doing. And he says, my days are past. My purpose are broken off. Even the thought, the night into day, the light is near. They say in the face of darkness, if I make my darkness say to corruption, you are to my father, and to the 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 worm, you are my mother and my sister. Where then? Now that was a long passage, but what does he say? He's saying to these guys, you speak out of ignorance is what he's saying. Basically, he said, there's nobody wise among you. And he's saying this, that my days are past. Job felt like he was not going to make it much longer. And he says, my purpose in life, my purpose is broken off. In other words, I have no purpose in life. Everything that I have is gone. It's gone. And he says they changed night into day. Now, what's he looking for? He's looking for hope. The light is near. They say in the face of darkness, if I wait for the grave as my house, if I make my bed in the darkness, if I say to the corruption, you are my father, and to the worm, you are my sister. What's he saying? What's he saying? He is saying my time is coming to an end. My dark are about to turn to light. Why are they about to turn to light? Because he's fixing to die. It's fixing to be over. It's over. It's fixing to be done. He's not going to have this pain. He's not going to have this misery. And he says, if I wait for the grave as my, and I make my bed in the darkness and say to corruption, you are my father. So what is he saying? When I die, death is what? He's kin to death, or he's close to death. You and the worm, what's the worm do? Eat the dead people. You are my mother and my sister. What is he saying? He is saying that now he is, death is right there with him. That everything else is gone. That he is fixing to leave this world. And he's in a very dark place. He's in a very, very dark place. And he says, where then is my hope? For my hope, who can see it? Will they go down to the gates of Sheol? Shall we have rest together in the dust? In other words, he's saying when he dies, that's it. I don't have any more trouble. I don't have any more pain. I don't have any more suffering. All right, so we'll have to pick up again here. We'll do a little bit more speaking on this next week. Let's see, today is the, what did y'all say it was? Today's we're looking at the 20th. Next week. What year is it?